Players have been saying that XDefiant on controller is way easier and is far superior to playing on mouse and keyboard. So I played on mouse and keyboard to find out. Hey guys, Nightfall here, and lately, like I said in the intro, a lot of people have been just complaining that controller aim assist is too powerful, and there's no way that mouse and keyboard can even compete. Well, I've been skeptical of all of those claims, and I'm calling BS. People are just coping. As long as I have been a gamer, mouse and keyboard has always been superior. Always. And it's driven people to such lengths, like using a Cronus or a Zim, to use mouse and keyboard on console for a lot of games because of how much better it really is. Well, I've never played really any game with a mouse and keyboard because I've always had consoles and grew up with a controller in my hand, never really played on PC. Well, times changed, and when I got a PC, guess what? I still used a controller because it was what I was familiar with and what I felt comfortable using. And some games for me, just trying to use a mouse and keyboard just felt like there was too many buttons. But there were other people who grew up on mouse and keyboard and are just absolutely nasty with it. But I've had enough of people trying to discredit skill because of players using a controller due to things like aim assist. Aim assist exists because controller players need it to be on par with mouse and keyboard. That's why it's there. That's why it was created in the first place. So before I go into detail about what happened, understand that I have a whopping 1 hour of playtime on mouse and keyboard on this game, and that's being generous. Also, I changed no settings from default except my sensitivity on my mouse from 30 to 20. Now, someone who isn't a stranger to mouse and keyboard is Clue. Some of you may know him, some of you may not, but to my understanding, he's a decently known XDefiant player who plays on mouse and keyboard, and well, he was in my game and on my team. So little did he know, we were having a kill race. In this game, there were 12 total players, 6v6, 5 were controller players. Now let's talk about how long it took me to find this game, because I had to back out about half a dozen times because I kept getting put into games with all mouse and keyboard players, even though I double checked and triple checked that I had IBMM turned off. So for starters, people playing on mouse and keyboard complaining about facing these super god controller players, you probably barely even play them. Now, I'll ease up a bit on that because this was only TDM and it was a Saturday night, so maybe a lot more mouse and keyboard players were on, I don't know. But when I finally did get a game worth playing, I stuck it out, and this is what you're watching now. Prior to this, I had played 2 other games in TDM with, I think, everybody on mouse and keyboard. There may have been 1 controller player, just to get a feel for what mouse and keyboard felt like. So the game you're watching is match number 3 with me on mouse and keyboard, so not really a whole lot of experience, and somehow, some way, I felt like I was still able to play pretty normal. Now, Mayday is a trash map, and I normally perform the worst out of maps, so ending this match with what I had is pretty good. So let's go ahead and pull up those end of match stats and do some breakdowns. Probably the first thing you're going to see and just immediately hone in on and start tapping away down in the comments is that yes, a controller player got MVP and went 47 and 15. And if you didn't realize, that's what the little controller icon was for. I took a screenshot before the game started to see who was on controller and superimposed the controller icon over where they are on the end of game leaderboard. In any lobby, going 47 and 15, just dropping 47 kills alone in a team deathmatch is not normal. This is a well above average player and has nothing to do with the fact that he was on controller. But what might be more interesting is the team with less controller players not only won, but also both of those controller players that were on the winning team were on the bottom of that team's leaderboard. And I did better than Clue, who plays on mouse and keyboard exclusively, and almost had the most kills on my team. Then the other 2 controller players on their team went negative. So let's go over this. A level 24, a level 30, a level 86, and a level 104, all on controller, all went negative and performed worse than the level 24 and 58 mouse and keyboard player. The level 13 and 26 mouse and keyboard players on the enemy team did better than the 2 higher level controllers on my team. So I don't understand how you can look at this and say that controller players are far superior, because if you swap this out and made it all controller versus mouse and keyboard, granted, the controller team would have to have one of the mouse and keyboard players, it would have been way worse and we still would have won. So what are my thoughts on playing on mouse and keyboard? Well, if this is just after 3 games and about an hour of playtime, then imagine if I spent all 600 hours I have on this game using a mouse and keyboard. I'd be just as good on mouse and keyboard as I am on controller. And I know this is going to trigger a lot of you players out there. Some people are going to comment on the levels of the players and say, this doesn't prove anything, and you were playing in a bot lobby. Well, I hate to break it to you, but most of the pub lobbies I play in look exactly like this. So they must all be bot lobbies then. And sure, this was just a small sample size. It was just one game. But my experience alone, just playing on mouse and keyboard and being able to track enemies, because that seems to be the argument, I didn't really have a problem. In fact, I found tracking enemies to be no different than on controller. Granted, I was a little jumpy at times in my aim because I'm not used to it, but the recoil still isn't crazy. It just feels fine. I don't really feel much of a difference. And therefore, I believe that neither one of the inputs, either controller or mouse and keyboard, have a real distinct advantage. So I'm not really sure why everyone complains so much. I really just think people are complaining over nothing. And I can almost bet that half of the people complaining about it probably haven't touched the other input. Both of these inputs have their own ups and downs, but go ahead. Come at me in the comments and tell me it was a bot lobby and that this doesn't prove anything. But hopefully this helps some of you out there trying to decide which is better, as well as furthering the debate between mouse and keyboard and controller on not only this game, but any game for that matter. And I'll catch you in the next upload.